The villain swore that they would return in 1,000 years to take revenge on the hero's descendants. When they wake up, however, they see another villain has already won, and the hero's descendants desperately need help. When I awoke, my tomb was much as I'd left it. A little dustier, perhaps, but that was only to be expected. Even the seal was intact, if only moments of work to undo. Outside my tomb, however, was a whole other story. Oh, don't get me wrong, when that idiot Tavin defeated me, I expected that he, and his legacy, would lead to something like the buildings I saw around me, tall, crystalline spires reaching higher than any tower imagined when last I walked the world, intermixed with smaller buildings, perhaps dwellings, of the same strange materials. The streets were clean, patrols marched regularly keeping the populace safe. It was a beautiful city. Except, for all that I knew 1,000 years had passed, I did not expect that the nature of man had changed overmuch, and it was in this knowledge that a sense of wrongness pervaded the atmosphere. A glance at the sky, and the position of the moon, gave me an approximate hour, and it was far too silent for a city at this time of night. Even in a purely residential district, far from the carousing of inns and taverns, it was early enough that I would expect some of those in the buildings around me to be up and working, or relaxing before sleep, or preparing a late meal. Instead, it was eerily silent. The patrols I noted were a little too regular, and, as I watched them pass, they seemed almost to be automatons of some nature, marching too closely in step, taking their corners just a bit too sharply, to be humans of free will. The streets were clean, true, but so clean that they felt sterile, as if not one thing was allowed to be out of place. A man scurried behind one such patrol, perhaps a scholar of some nature by his clothes and his satchel, those styles had changed too much for me to be certain. His actions betrayed a bone-deep fear, and while he could have been a thief, stealing into an unoccupied home beneath the eyes of the city's finest, I did not think so. His relief at alighting upon his doorstep, and the key he withdrew from his pocket, indicated a man making a homecoming at the end of the day, not one entering where he should not. Something was wrong in the world, and I did not like it. A hand brushed my sleeve, and I whirled, grasping the wrist of my assailant. Upon closer inspection, I released them. They were a mere child, perhaps 13 summers, and fear was naked upon their face. I'm sorry, they stammered, so quiet that I could barely hear. Are you Aberith the Foretold? Glancing to the end of the alley and listening a moment for the patrols, I could hear none, I replied, almost as quietly as the child, I am Aberith, though foretold was not my epithet when last I walked. Who are you, child? My name is Susan. Susan ap Tavin. My sisters and I need your help. As secret lairs went, I'd seen worse. Susan, who confirmed along the way that, as I suspected from her ap Tavin surname, she was indeed one of the very descendants that I'd sworn to wreak vengeance against upon my awakening, had led me through a series of back alleyways to a park, and in the park to a small wooden structure. It seemed to be a playhouse of some nature, with a clever secret entrance to some tunnels below. Within, one side tunnel had been magically hidden. Upon being given entry by Susan, I was greeted by 3 more children, 1 younger and 2 older, who shared enough resemblance that I took them for the aforementioned sisters. Let me restate the situation, to be clear that I've understood correctly. The city, and, in fact, the kingdom as a whole, is under the purview of one you claim to be a madman, who in the name of safety and security has imposed greater and greater restrictions on the populace. Crime is down because breaking the law is punishable by lifelong imprisonment, if not death, even for infractions such as breaking curfew or making too much noise. That about sums it up. Yes, the eldest sister, Lucy, confirmed. And because he's known to be good, and because it's happened so slowly, people have just accepted it. I think there's magic involved, as well, said Jill, piping up from where she was feeding their youngest sister, Polly. It's subtle, but it's there. As she'd been the one, I was told, who'd placed the illusions keeping their hideout safe, I decided to trust that assessment, at least for now. Well, he's not good, whoever he is. I leaned back in my chair, closing my eyes and wishing, just for a moment, that I'd never been so stupid as to swear to come back. I'd had enough of the world's stupid problems the last time around. What you've got isn't good, it's just what people have long confused it with, order. And far too much of it. Don't get me wrong, order is needed, but people hold chaos in their nature as well, and the balance is important. I leaned forward again, steepling my fingers in front of my face. Never let it be said that I'd pass up a moment to be dramatic. The question remains, who is this man, and why do you think that I, a sworn villain, will help you? Lucy sighed, and I immediately knew I regretted the question, even before she spoke. Why, he's Peter ap Tavin, the descendant of Tavin, who you swore vengeance against. And, of course, he's our father.